Welcome everybody to another episode of League One on the Rocks. Just like last season when we had the 2023 champion coach, North Carolina's John Bradford on, we have the 2023 and 2024 USL League One Coach of the Year and Player Shield winner and USL League One final winner. We have Unanoma head coach Dominic Casciato here with us. How you doing, coach?
Good, thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And as always, we have Brian there, co-host extraordinaire. Brian, how you doing?
Something. Not too bad, yeah. Fighting a little bit of something off right now, but
Yeah.
um, nothing too crazy. So excited to get in and talk to Coach again.
Cool. All right. Well, since you got a tickle in your throat, are you going to drink anything tonight?
I got water.
Okay. All
I
right. So you're
got
staying
lots of water.
hydrated.
Yeah.
It's a good start. Coach, are you drinking anything tonight?
Same, water. I
Water.
wish
All
it was a
right.
little more exciting, but unfortunately not.
I have a big bottle of Jameson here, so I'm going to dive into this one here.
Are you going to finish that before the show's over?
Oh yeah. Since you requested it, I will. Yeah.
Questions are going to get better towards the end, I think.
Yeah. Fresh crack too. That is a brand new bottle.
Brand new.
I bought
Well,
that
coach.
as a leaving present. He hasn't shared that with the audience yet when he left Omaha.
Yep. So yeah, before I left for Statesboro, Coach bought me this bottle as a goodwill or a goodbye gift, and here I am a year later diving into it. So very thankful for the gift. Still thankful for the gift. But Coach, how have you been celebrating the off season so far?
Um, I don't know if celebrating is the right word. I think we had a brief moment to reflect, and then straight away you switch your focus to next year. I was really fortunate to be able to get a break and go back to England for a couple of weeks. Rich, I think you know, like me and my wife had a baby this year, our first child, so we were able to take him back to visit the rest of my family that hadn't met him yet. Especially my grandparents who were both in their 90s, and he's actually named after my grandfather Mario. So introducing him to my grandparents was really special, and feel really fortunate and blessed we were able to do that. So
Nice. Congratulations on the new addition to the family.
yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And you said you're not in Europe anymore, correct?
No, we're back in Omaha now. Yeah.
Okay, good. I don't want to be recording at like 2:30,
Super
3
early.
o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I would have requested a time change if I was still there, but no, we're back now. So.
Well, we appreciate you being on the show. We have a lot of questions tonight, ranging from your preparation leaning or going into the 24 season, your season in progress, whether it was the regular season, the US Open Cup, the Jägermeister Cup, winning the league final, winning the Coach of the Year award. So we have a ton of stuff to get into. Brian, I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah. So I think we can probably just start at the beginning of the season this year. Uh, there was a lot of hype coming into this season, specifically with teams like Lexington, and then all the other teams like Madison and everything like that. How much of the noise or the hype from other teams did you listen to? And did that do anything to kind of motivate you and the team to go on this title run that you did this year?
Yeah, I don't know if I really listen to noise from anybody else. I think I'm pretty good at trusting my instincts. I did realize that, we'd lost over 60% of our roster. We lost our GM. We lost one of the best athletic trainers I've ever worked with. These are all guys that moved on to bigger and better things, right? Nothing too crazy here. We lost the kit man. We lost a lot of staff behind the scenes, and we lost a lot of players, right? So I remember reading the rankings, the preseason power rankings, and I think it had us, seventh or fifth or something like that, saying, they've lost just too many players to be able to do it again. And, as much as we try not to pay attention to what other teams are doing or what other people are saying, when you see things like that, I think it sparks something inside you. If you are a competitor, it sparks something inside you to say, well, hang on a minute, I don't know if that's quite accurate. We've got very good players. Yeah, we lost a lot of guys, but worked really hard in the off season to replace those guys with players that are even better or could be better in our system. So when we saw that stuff, yeah, I think it certainly ruffled our feathers a little bit and made us think, all right, maybe we have a point to prove this year, that we can back it up. And we're the first team, I think it's for 12 years, to win back-to-back regular season titles in the USL. So really pleasing we're able to do that. We try not to pay too much attention to the other teams, but if you see stuff coming out from media publications and things like that that you find to be maybe a little bit disrespectful, I think you can use it as motivation, and you can use it to fire up the players.
And
I
this
mean,
was your first full off season as a head coach versus your very abbreviated off season heading into the 23 season. How did you manage your time, your goals, your recruiting differently heading into the 24 season?
Um, I think first and foremost, like we had to bring in a new assistant coach, so we brought in Vincenzo Candello, who played in the league for a number of years. Vinny's a great guy. He's going to be a great coach, and that was probably our first big signing of the off season, I would say. Then after that, it was about just following our processes. We're pretty robust in terms of being thorough with any guys that get sent to us. We look at everybody. There's nobody that comes in and we just say, "Oh, no," straight away, unless we know something about that player that we don't like. So we're super thorough in our processes. All of our staff work really, really hard to make sure that we're bringing the right players in. And I think we're just very clear in terms of what we want and what we value in each position. And when you have that clarity, I think it makes it a little bit easier to identify the right players and eliminate the ones that are not quite going to fit for you. So I guess it comes down to processes, Rich.
and I mean, those processes obviously are kind of learned throughout an entire career. Um, so, kind of what lessons did you really learn after that first season that you can now utilize moving forward and did utilize in this past season?
In terms of recruitment, Brian?
I mean, in terms of recruitment or in just maybe in terms of knowing the league landscape or anything like that, just general head coaching duties, I suppose.
Yes, it's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of people, want to be head coaches or feel like they could be a head coach. There's a saying in Italian. I won't translate it, but it basically it says there's 60 million national team coaches of the Italian national team because everyone has an opinion, right? Everyone thinks they can do it better, but it's not until you do it and then you realize the realities of the job and how much planning and preparation goes into it. So for us, I think the first year we were kind of building the plane as we were flying it, which was interesting. And we certainly made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I just like to think that going into year two, we made less mistakes, right? We still wasn't perfect, but we made less mistakes. We're a little bit more aware of how the league works, about what works in a league, what doesn't, the type of players that excel in the league, the type of players that maybe are not suited to the league. And then as you get that understanding, obviously that can shape more or less everything that you do. So I think we were, pretty good at that, and I think that's probably a strong set of or a skill set of my staff and me in that. We're always looking to get better, right? And we never think we have all the answers. So from going through year one, which is obviously very successful, we still realised there was room for us to grow and improve, and I think we proved that going into year two. And you see the culmination of it with us winning 2 trophies this year.
And that's a great question that actually, I'm sorry, a great answer to the question that leads us straight into a question we have in the live chat. I hope I'm pronouncing this name, Ewan. He is asking, do you use video and data to scout players?
Yeah, we do. We do. I can give you a brief oversight, Ewan. We basically, on a surface level, look at three things for players. The first one is ability. Is a player good enough to come in and make us better, or at least maintain our level? That's number one. The second thing we look at is availability. So, is the player someone that is missing a lot of games through injury, or is he robust? Is he available every week? Is he getting a lot of minutes in? Because you could sign Leo Messi, right? But if he's never available, he's no good to you. And then the third piece is attitude, and that's done from watching him, looking at his body language, seeing how he reacts when things go well, when things don't go well, how he is with his teammates, with the referee, all that sort of stuff. But then also speaking to people in the game that may have worked with that player, that may have played with that player, that may have coached that player. So we look at a little bit of everything, and then for each position, there's certain, I guess, KPIs you could say that we really value, and we look at those, and we have kind of benchmarks that we like all players, in a specific position to be able to meet. And that's not to say that there's outliers, right? Like sometimes you see a guy that you really fall in love with on a video, and you look at the numbers and you say, oh, well, this percentage is not kind of what we normally look for, but we think he can be really good. And, we have to be flexible enough to make those decisions and trust our instincts as well.
Yeah, and I mean that's going with that kind of trusting your instincts and making decisions not necessarily on the fly, but making decisions you know you should be making. Were there any changes in your approach to any training sessions or maybe load management for the season that you learned after being in the season a full or being in the league for a full season?
I don't know if there's much that we changed from year one to year two in terms of loading. I think in year one, at the beginning of the season, we are probably pushing the guys a little bit too hard in training. And I think that carried over into the games and maybe hurt us in terms of results for the first period that I was in charge. I think going into year two, one of the things that we really tried to do is we tried to build in some adversity into the preseason. So we purposely built out a week that was really difficult, where we didn't give the guys a day off, or maybe just one day off. And then we played Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday with long travel for each of those three games. So we wanted to make it difficult for them. And I think looking back, yeah, maybe that helped us become a little bit more robust and a little bit harder to beat. But then in that period, we ended up with 2 or 3 muscle injuries. So I think going into year three, it's probably shaped my approach there in terms of, okay, is it worth, the reward, risking, getting players injured, overextending them at that point in the preseason? And I think the answer is probably no. So I think that's going to shape kind of how I go into this preseason, and we're putting that together now. But yeah, look, I think we're always learning. We don't have all the answers, and I think when you do think you have all the answers, that's when you come unstuck. So we're trying not to get to that point.
And talking about some of the action that occurred during the season, at the end of the regular season, Union Omaha finished with 13 points gained from a losing position, which is the most in club history. How are you able to inspire this mindset to excel despite facing an uphill battle?
Yeah, I think it comes down to just mentality. I think of like when I grew up watching football as a kid in England. I'd watch Tottenham, who were my team, who anytime things got difficult, they tended to crumble. And that was really frustrating to me. But at the same time, I'd watch Manchester United, right? Alex Ferguson's teams at Manchester United. And if you're familiar with those teams, these guys just never ever gave in, and they would always score late goals to have steal a point or to win a game. A great example of it being the '99 Champions League final. So I looked at that, and I really got inspired by that. And I think ultimately, as fans, as people that love the game, all you really want to see is a group of guys that are just never ever going to give up. And I think we've done a pretty good job of drilling that into our team and into our players, and just making sure they know that, one, they have the quality to always be in a game, and two, it's never over until the final whistle goes. And even when the final whistle goes, sometimes we just run out of time. Instead of losing the game, we just run out of time. So I think for us, it's just about reiterating that message, building that in training, that giving up is not an option, and hopefully that shapes how the guys go into games, and the belief that they have, even if they are down early in a game or late in a game, that they're able to come back from it.
Yeah, and I mean, just we talked about gaining points from a losing position. Um, Union Omaha only dropped 5 points from a winning position this season, and that's the least since the 2020 season. So when you and the players are in a winning position, kind of what is your mindset to finish that match strong and not drop points?
Yeah, I think it's to keep pushing, to keep trying to play the football that got you the lead in the first place. I think sometimes people can fall into the trap of becoming too defensive and trying to soak up pressure. I like to think that we don't fall into that trap, but I think sometimes in our, I guess, in our league, teams do have a little bit of a tendency, after they score to be a little bit more conservative. So I think for us, it's about trying to break some of those habits and making sure the guys keep playing, keep pushing. So if they do that and they go and get another goal, then the game is over. So that was certainly a big problem for us in year one, where we gave away way too many points late in games from winning positions. And I actually wasn't aware of the stats, so I'm glad you guys brought it to my attention. It's really pleasing that we have improved in that area.
And to kind of build off that discussion about the typical or the type of style that you brought, did you what sort of changes did you make this season, and what inspired those changes?
Um, yeah, I think tactically, last year we primarily played a back four. This year we primarily played a back three. I'm not somebody that gets too caught up on formations. I'm more about the animation and how people move within the system. Um, so in terms of what we changed, I guess structurally, you would say it was a more obvious, back three. I don't think we were as dominant through the middle of the field as we were last year. I think we didn't have as much control in the middle of the pitch as I would have liked to. I think that got better as the season kind of went on. And I think losing PC, when we did, when he decided to retire, I think that impacted our ability to dominate games through the middle because he was such a good player and such a big part of what we were doing. So I think for us, we became a little bit more reliant on service from wide areas, individuals in wide areas being able to get the ball into the box and then making sure we're executing our principles there. Um, so we always want to dominate the game. We want to dominate the game through the middle. We want to dominate the game in the wide areas. I feel like this year we were just a little more reliant on the wide areas than we were on the middle, and that wasn't by design. That was just kind of the way things worked out.
Well, I think we can kind of switch gears here to the competition to this show. I mean, we love it. We talk about it all the time. But the U.S. Open Cup, um, just kind of going into it in the second round, Union Omaha played the Des Moines Menace, and their roster was kind of built up very quickly to play that match, um, with names such as Roger Espinoza and Sasha and Eddie Gordon. So, what were some of your thoughts heading into the match, seeing all these big names be signed to the Des Moines Menace for you guys?
Yeah, obviously a little concerning, right? Because a lot of very good players there. So we're like, oh wow, are these guys going to be really good? But thankfully most of them are retired and just came out of retirement for that one game. So I think a good team is always going to be a bunch of individuals that have a lot of talent that have kind of thrown together at the last minute. So look, I think as a coach, like you're a little bit nervous going into every game. Going into that game, I was probably a little bit more nervous than usual, just because one of those guys can stick a shot in the top corner from 30 yards out of nothing. But no, it was fun to play against those guys. Sasha had some really nice things to say about our team after the game. We had a good conversation, and yeah, I think the guys enjoyed playing against them.
And then in the next round, you played your old club, El Paso Locomotive. Whereas in 23, you beat them in regulation. You had to go to penalties. Do you incorporate penalty kicks on a regular basis in your training sessions?
Not really. I think the guys will practice them on their own. We don't make a big habit of practicing them. I have to say, maybe we should do a little bit more. Um, but no, we don't practice them a ton. I think the game itself is funny, right? We had to play El Paso again, obviously my old club. I just found out today we're going to play them in the Jägermeister Cup at home again this year. So it's funny how that works out. But no, it's good to compete against those guys. Obviously, going to penalties, it's a little bit of a coin toss. I think we were the better team, certainly in the first half, and then we got on top again later in the second half. So I think we deserved to win the game, even though they missed a penalty right before half time. Um, but yeah, pleasing to get the win, and yeah, maybe not practicing penalties is something we need to look at going into this season.
And then finally, the fourth round, Union Omaha hosted Sporting Kansas City. Um, this match ended up being significantly closer than the previous matchup Union Omaha had with Sporting Kansas City. And just with being myself being a fan of Sporting Kansas City and Union Omaha, this was like the dream matchup, and I know that was a lot for a lot of people here as well. Saw a lot of blue in the stadium as well. But can you kind of describe what it was like for you to be a part of such a big moment for fans in the Omaha area?
Yeah, it was great. It was great to see Caniglia Field packed. That was really wonderful. It was great to see the community come together for the game. I know there's a bunch of people like you, Brian, that obviously support Kansas City as their major league team, but support us as their local team. So to me, that was really special. And there's actually a photo from that game after Lagos scores the goal and we go 1-0 up. There's a photo of 4 or 5 of the guys, over there celebrating with the fans, jumping up on a wall, and just the joy on the fans' faces, it's incredible. So I asked the club to get it blown up and printed, and we have it in our break room now. And I go in there sometimes just to have a coffee or breakfast, and I just look at some of the faces. And there's one little kid actually in particular. He must be 12 or 13 years of age. Do you know the photo I'm talking about? You know the kid I'm talking about, and he's just screaming. He's
Yeah.
got this in
Hmm.
the air, and you think, wow, like that's what the game is all about, right? That's what the game can do for people. It can bring about emotions that not many other things can. So yeah, to be involved in a game like that was great. Listen, would have been a lot better if we were on the winning side, and we were very close to doing that. It's just unfortunate to lose the game in the last minute of extra time when, again, like we could have taken them to penalties. I feel like the goal we gave up was maybe a little bit of a cheap goal, and we missed a couple of big chances in the second half as well. So yeah, disappointed. Feel like it's a missed opportunity, but what a wonderful experience to be involved in that game, and great to see the Omaha community come together for it.
And Chris in the live chat said that that kid's name is Dan, and
Okay.
that his she knows his parents, and that they're going to be ecstatic to hear that you just mentioned him in this interview.
Yeah, tell his parents thank you, because when I look at that photo, I look at that kid, and it just makes me smile. It makes me super happy. So great photo, great memories, and a great moment that was captured on somebody's camera. So
That's cool. Well, to switch attention over to the Jägermeister Cup, just general thoughts. What was your impression? What are your thoughts on the first edition of the Jaeger Cup?
yeah, I think it was great. I think we really enjoyed competing in it. Obviously, the news has come out now that it's going to be bigger and better and expanded a little bit, which I think is great for the competition. I think it's great for the USL, and I think we're really excited and looking forward to competing it again. For us, obviously, we want to win every competition we go into. So losing in the semi-final was a little bit disappointing. We felt like we were going there with a good game plan, and getting a man sent off in I think it was the first 20 minutes obviously changes the shape of the game immensely when you're away from home, because I thought we were pretty comfortable before that. But yeah, the competition itself was great. Hopefully this year we'll be involved in the final, and hopefully bring another trophy home to Omaha, which is always our intention. So a little bit disappointed we couldn't do that this year, but great to be involved in it. And it's something I think is going to grow, right? And to be involved in the first edition of it is really special, and you can be part of history that way.
And so, looking ahead to the 2025 edition, uh, what are you looking forward to the most with this basically new entire format for the entire competition?
Yeah, I just think we're in this because we love competing, right? And we love going after trophies. And I think anytime you've got an opportunity to compete for a trophy, it's something special. It's something to be cherished. I think to obviously compete against Texoma, a new expansion club that we're going to see in regular season play, will be great. But we see my old club El Paso again here at Werner Park. So we're looking forward to that, and then to go to New Mexico and San Antonio, two stadiums that I know well from being with El Paso, are trips that I'm looking forward to, and I'm excited to play those guys, and also to take our team and our players down there to experience the atmosphere, because they're two of the best facilities in the Western Conference with great fan bases. So really excited for those games.
And does the prospect of playing multiple USL Championship teams excite you, or would you rather it stay inclusive to just the League One teams?
No, I think like if it's just the League One teams, right? There's how many of us now? 14, maybe 15, 14, right? I think.
Mhm.
Um, I think if it's just you guys, it's almost like we see you guys every week. Like you want to play somebody different, a cup competition. Everywhere else in the world is that right? It's a mix between the teams from all the different levels. So I think that's what it has to be. Obviously, the Open Cup is that way, which is great. Everyone loves the Open Cup. We just spoke about it for 5 minutes. I spoke to you about the emotion it evoked in our fan base that evokes emotion in me every morning when I go into the break room. So now to be able to do that, within the USL and within the Championship, within League One, I think is really exciting and something that we're really looking forward to.
So, Dom, you've done a lot since you've been here. There's been a ton of broken records, especially this past season and the year before. Is there one that kind of sticks out in your head that you're particularly proud of?
Um, Obviously, the goals as well. I think everybody loves goals, and I think both seasons we've broken records for goals per game. So I think that one, right? I think the reason why a lot of people watch games is for goals and to be entertained. And I think we score a lot of goals, and the goals we've scored have been normally great goals. So I think that one. But it's tough to look past the trophies, right? And I think the one record is being the first team to go back to back regular season titles for 10, 12 years, whatever it's been. I think that's probably the record I'm most proud of because everyone loves the playoffs, but people that know the game know that winning the regular season is where it's at, right? That's the most difficult thing to do. So to do that 2 years in a row, especially given the circumstances, losing over 60% of the roster, being written off by a lot of people, right? You referenced that article earlier. I think that's really pleasing for us, and that's probably what I'm most proud of.
So when we interviewed Gary Green, Omaha owner, not too long ago, there was a mention in the live chat that we have Jerry World for the NFL down in Dallas. We should call the new stadium Gary World for Gary Green.
Okay.
When we put your statue outside of that stadium, that's what you want below you? Like, that's what you want on the plaque below you?
What do you mean?
So, like, if we have, like, a statue of you on
Okay.
the foundation of your statue, there's gonna be a plaque, and so that's the record that you want to be placed on the plaque?
I'll leave that up to you guys. I'll be happy with a statue, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Yeah.
And we do have a question here in the live chat from Tim with Ranting Blue Penguin Media, asking, is Dom aware that Union Omaha has never lost to a USL Championship side in competitive play?
I'm aware. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. Hopefully, that record is still intact at the end of this season because we're going to play a lot more of them. So,
I like it. I like it.
Very
Well,
good.
speaking of an article that was published not too long ago, there was an article written by Nicholas Murray for the league website just ahead of the League One final, and it revealed an early stage in your coaching career when you were a part of the technical staff for a USL League Two team called the Jersey Express. And on that team's roster was a familiar name to a lot of American soccer fans, and that is the current US men's national team goalkeeper, Matt Turner. Tell us a little bit about your experiences and that stage in your career.
yeah, it was a great time in my career. I was a young coach just getting started. I worked with Jeff Mateo, who was the head coach. Jeff is kind of like my big brother. We first met when I went to St. John's. I was a graduate assistant, and Jeff was the first assistant coach. And Jeff kind of took me under his wing and brought me with him when he took the head coaching job at Jersey Express to be his assistant and just kind of help with all facets of the program there, which I was really grateful for. And it was a great experience for me because as a young guy, I was maybe a little bit insecure or a little bit self conscious about working with players that were older than me. And Jeff helped me get over that pretty quickly. So I think that was an important part of my development as a coach. And then in terms of some of the players we worked with, obviously you mentioned Matt. We also had guys like Tommy McNamara. We we would somehow have like random players come and practice with us who shouldn't have been practicing with us. We had Yannick Balassi when he was playing for Crystal Palace at the time. A bunch of guys that would just show up, and you're like, oh, all right, yeah, sure, you can train today. I'm not going to tell you, no. So yeah, it was a great time. I think for me at the time, I was coaching as much as I can, coaching a lot of different levels, and working with Jeff and our goalkeeper coach actually Billy Gaudet should get a special mention because I think Billy, really helped set Matt on the right track. So just to give you the background, I think Matt has shared this publicly as well, so I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning it. But when Matt came to us, he had a lot of physical tools. He seemed to be a very competent goalkeeper, but there was something missing. I think he'd been shaken a little bit confidence wise, and you could just tell something wasn't quite right with him because he had all the tools. And we found out after a few weeks that he'd conceded some type of crazy goal, like made a mistake like anyone can make. And that goal he conceded was featured on like ESPN's not top 10 for like I don't know weeks. And one, I think that's not right. Right, like to highlight a college kid who's just made a mistake, and put him in a public spotlight in that way. One, I don't think is right, but two, like obviously that's a test for that kid, right? Like, is he able to come out the other side of that? And a lot of people wouldn't be strong enough to come out and respond in the way that Matt did. And I think, we were getting Matt at a stage where, he's figuring out how he was going to respond. And I think being able to work with a goalkeeper coach as good as Billy Gaudet is what kind of pushed him in the right direction, because Billy was a great goalkeeper himself, comes from a super athletic family. His other siblings, I think, are Olympians, and Billy knows how to press the right buttons. So watching him work with Matt every day, you could just see Matt growing in confidence, growing in terms of his skill set. And by the end of the first season with us, you could tell he was going to be a very good goalkeeper. I don't know if any of us thought he was going to go on and be the men's national team number one and play in the Premier League and all that stuff, but he's really a wonderful guy. He's got a heart of gold, a real gentle soul, and I'm super pleased for him and all the success that he's had in his career. I think he deserves all of it and what's to come as well.
Yeah, and I mean, here you are speaking of his growth through um in that same article from Nicholas Murray, you also alluded to your satisfaction with some of the coaching at the collegiate level. And with spending so much of your life in Europe, how much growth have you really seen here in the United States as far as coaching has come?
Yeah, I've seen a lot. I think there's really, really good coaches in the US. I think in our level, in our league, there's some fantastic coaches. I look at some of the clubs and some of the work that's going on, the way the teams are playing, and continues to impress me week in, week out, and obviously makes our job difficult because we have to be really good to beat them. Um, I'd say the same about the championship. I'd say the same about the MLS, and I'd say the same about the college game. We watched the final the other day between Vermont and Marshall, and two teams with very different styles, but very, very clear identities in terms of what they wanted to do. So I think there's great coaches at every level in this country, and I think those coaches deserve a little bit more recognition and respect.
And a part of the growth with coaching is all about recognizing certain resources that are available that can help you. And one of the things that we've noticed is that Union Omaha was more active with their loans this season. Do you intend on staying active with those loans?
Yeah, I think it depends, Rich. I think if there's a quality player that's available on loan, then yeah, why wouldn't you consider it? Obviously we had Misa on loan this year. We had Max on loan this year, and two players that really contributed to our success. You know, I think I can share this now because he just returned a contract, but Max is coming to Omaha again. He's going to be an important part of our team, so we're really pleased to be bringing him back. And I think the loans also allow you to get a head start on your recruitment, right? If there's a player that you like who chooses another club and things are not quite working out, which is the case with Max this past year, being able to bring that guy in on loan, maybe it gives you a head start to be able to get that player for next year if his parent club don't want to keep him. So yeah, we feel really fortunate that we've used the loan market well. Bringing those two guys in, Misa obviously scored goals for us, and we wish him well in the next stage of his career. And then Max obviously will be coming back here to Omaha, so we're really fortunate to have him back.
You already have fans in the live chat celebrating.
Yes, very
Yeah,
much.
me too. Yeah.
um, so we also have signed another player from the academy to a professional contract with Mark Bronick this season. Yoskar was the first one in 22 and Anderson Holt in 2023. Was there any singular moment watching Mark play that you knew you were going to sign him to a contract?
To a professional contract.
Correct.
I think just watching his evolution over the course of the season, it was obvious that this is a kid with a really bright future. It was very obvious to us when we first brought him in that he was ready to be in our environment. Then it was a case of, okay, now you have to learn how to train with pros. You have to learn how to, get up to speed with this level. And once he did that, the qualities that he has in terms of the timing of his movement, his variety of finish, that really started to shine. And it became very, very obvious to us then that this is a kid that we need to put a contract in front of, and a kid with a very bright future, which is nice for me. I've coached Mark. Well, I first met Mark when he was 7 years old, playing for Brooklyn Italians, a club that I was the technical director at. And he was a super talent back then. He used to be like a central midfielder. So to see him, develop and grow into this young man is really wonderful. And I think for me, the relationships and seeing the growth in a young kid from Brooklyn like that, who's born to two immigrant parents, is really inspiring, and I'm super happy for him, and I'm sure big things are coming.
And he's the one who scored the game-winning PK against Northern Colorado?
Maybe, yeah, maybe definitely against El Paso.
Okay, okay, El Paso.
The
Did he
kid,
approach you or did you approach him for that penalty
no,
kick?
I told him he was going to take it. Yeah, I wanted to test him a little bit, and yeah, he didn't disappoint me. I think he did against Northern Colorado as well, but I'd have to check that. So
Yeah, that's funny. So, similar question because you signed Charlie Ostrom, mid-season, who at the time was playing in New Zealand.
yeah,
And how were you able to find another diamond when he was playing on the other side of the world? And how were you able to convince him to come and contribute right away?
similar situation to Max. So we tried to sign both Max and Charlie in the off season. They both decided to go for other opportunities, which is fine. I think sometimes, maybe you can take these things personally and be like, oh, if he doesn't want to pick us now, then screw that guy, right? That's not really our approach. Understand that players are always going to make decisions that are what they think is best for them at that moment in time, which sometimes means they're going to disappoint you, right? But it doesn't mean just because they've turned you down that they don't fit your system, right? You identify them, you went after them for a reason. So for us, it's like, okay, like, they're still very good players. Let's stay in touch. Let's see what happens. And with Charlie, it was a case that he kind of wanted a life experience to play outside of the US. We knew he went to New Zealand. We knew, he was starting to feel like he maybe wanted to come back to the States. And I think just by staying in touch with him, we were able to be first in line, and really fortunate to be able to get him to Omaha. He had a big impact on our team in the second half of the season, and he's another one that should be back next season as well. So super pleased to have both of those guys back.
So, I mean, with him coming back from New Zealand, how much time did it take for him to adjust to being in the United States again? I mean, sleeping, waking up, so there's the style of soccer from going across the world to play. Um, Kind of how long did it take for him to come back to playing his brand of soccer?
Yeah, I think it took him a couple of weeks to get settled. Right, we gave him maybe a week after he signed his contract to get back to the US, to go home to see his family. It's obviously a huge trip, right? So like to get over the jet lag before we dragged him in and expected him to perform straight away. Once he got with the team, I think it was a case of understanding our identity, meshing with the other guys, understanding our playing style. And Charlie's a really bright guy. Charlie picked up those things really, really quickly. He's somebody that is always on the front foot, always wants to learn, always wants to get better. He's a real go-getter and a proactive guy. So it's not surprising to me that he was able to adjust quickly and force his way into the team and be a big part of our success.
I mean, so we're talking about bringing guys on, but you also had players retire in the middle of the season. So PC obviously retired to pursue a career or a coaching opportunity in San Antonio. And you've also mentioned in the past Pedro Dolabella is somebody who has immense potential as a future coach. What sort of qualities do you kind of see in these players where you look at them and think you could be a great coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one is love for the game, right? I think most coaches you have to be obsessed a little bit with the game. And I think PC certainly had that. I think Pedro has that. um, so I think that's one. I think attention to detail is number two. Um, I also think leadership qualities are helpful, right? Because you can see certain guys have the personality to lead a group, to speak up, to step up in big moments and take responsibility for the group. And I think ultimately coaching, right, you're responsible for 11 players on the field and the guys on the bench and the guys in the stands. And you represent the club and the fans and the city and everything else. So I think to be able to do that, you've got to have some leadership qualities within you. And I think Pedro has that. And we're fortunate that a bunch of our guys have that. And those leadership qualities help us in difficult moments in games. And I'm sure if they choose to go into coaching later, are going to help them to be very successful as well.
Do you ever sit down with those players that you see those qualities in and say, "Hey, have you ever thought about coaching?"
Yeah, we have those discussions. I don't know if it's ever, super formal. Like with a guy like Steven Dos Santos that we knew was retiring at the end of the season. Steve and I have a great relationship, and we would sit and talk and have a coffee. And I would say, "Hey, where's your head at? What you think you're going to do?" I think Stephen wants to sit on a bed on the beach for a while back in Cape Verde before he makes his mind up. But he's somebody that loves competing, that loves the game. I think he's great with people, and I think will be a tremendous coach. But it's whether or not Stephen wants to do that, right? Because Stephen's the type of guy that whatever he sets his mind to, he's going to be successful. He's just got that drive and that determination about him that he won't accept failure. And I think that's really good qualities for a coach. So I would love to see Stephen coaching, but um, I'll leave that up to him. I'll wait until he's done relaxing on the beach. But yeah, those conversations pop up. Obviously, you don't want to bring them up too soon, right? And have guys thinking about retiring when you still want them to play and they can still contribute to the team. But yeah, like if you see guys talking about tactics, if you see guys, looking at different coaching methodologies and approaches and talking about coaches, you get a sense that all right, this is a guy that maybe is interested in following that pathway.
Very cool.
So, I mean, another accolade that you've got, we touched on it at the beginning of the show. You won Coach of the Year again this year. So just kind of how does that feel to be the first coach to win it in back-to-back seasons?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. It's great. Obviously, great recognition. It's really nice to be recognised by my peers and the other coaches in the league because there's a lot of good coaches in the league. But it's a team effort, right? And I wouldn't be able to get that recognition if we didn't have great players who gave absolutely everything in every game. And then I think those Coach of the Year awards may be a little bit selfish because it's not just me, right? It's a team of coaches, it's the support staff, it's the front office. So I'm just super grateful to have really good people in those positions that support me and they're the team behind the team that allow us to be successful. So yeah, big shout out to those guys and yeah, super grateful for everything they do. And rather than Coach of the Year, it should probably be Coaching Staff of the Year.
But there's got to be some degree of satisfaction knowing that you had 70% of the vote. Only one Coach of the Year award has gone to somebody with a higher percentage of the vote. Like it's got to feel pretty good, right?
To be honest, like yeah, it's nice to be recognised, but the percentages and things like that, I haven't really looked at. Rich, I have to be honest with you. So yeah, it's great. It's great to be recognised, and I think everyone wants to be recognised for their work, and especially if you've done a great job, right? You're hoping you're recognised. So yeah, we're super grateful. But look, I always think these type of awards, they're a result of collective success. So I'm more proud of the team's success than I am of us getting Coach of the Year.
Question here from Tim with Ranting Blue Penguin again, asking, aside from yourself, who would you have picked for Coach of the Year, or I guess coaching staff of the year?
That's a good question. I think there's some really good coaches in the league. I think there's some really good candidates for it this year. I guess the first one I'd say is Eamon and Colin, those guys in Northern Colorado. I think they did a good job in pretty difficult circumstances there this year. Obviously, you see the club going out of business, and you know it's really sad. You don't want to see that happening to any club and any coaching staff, right? But I think Eamon and Colin, operated really, really well this year, given what was going on behind the scenes there and some of the challenges. Um, I think you look at Matt and JP over there in Madison and Neil. I think those guys do a good job. I think their team's always organised. They always have a clear idea of how they want to play. So I thought they were good. I could be here mentioning a lot of coaches from the league. But they're probably the first two that spring to mind.
All right, so you've won the Players Shield twice. You've won the USL League One final once. You've won Coach of the Year twice. What's next? I mean, how do you top that?
Yeah, you just have to do it again, right? You have to dust yourself off and you try and climb to the mountain again. I think the thing that probably motivates us going into 2025 is we've got an opportunity to do three in a row in terms of the regular season titles. And I don't think anyone's ever done that at any level of US soccer, any professional level anyway. So that would be amazing. That would be the cherry on top of the cake for me to do three in a row. Would be amazing. But I've never actually spoken to the guys about winning the league, believe it or not. In the 2 years I've been here, we don't speak about winning the league. We talk about, all right, if you want to win the league, this is, the average points you need. If you want to be a home playoff team, this is what you need. If you want to be a playoff team, this is what you need. So you kind of, we've planted the seed that way rather than, like we want to be league champions. Like obviously we want to be league champions, right? But so does everybody else. We try and just break it down into, okay, this is how you get there, and then we chunk it, I would say, and saying like, you need this many points, and you've got to win your home games, you've got to win this, you've got to win that. And I think that's allowed us to manage it a little bit better.
And there was a special story that came out after you won the League One final. While everyone was going downtown to the restaurant to get started on the celebrations and everything, word spread that you drove the opposite direction to go spend a quick moment with Michak Jerome, deliver his medal, give him the good news. What was that moment like?
Yeah, that was yeah, that was a special moment for us. It was me, Beto, Ladule. I think Vinny was there as well. Yeah, it was the four of us. And yeah, that was a nice moment. Obviously, Misha's had been through a lot. He's still going through a lot, and yeah, for us to be able to share that moment with him was everything.
That's special. That's a truly classy gesture from you too. So once word was spreading about that happening as it was happening, it was hard not to have a tear come to your eye or anything like that. That's a great story and a true classy gesture from you. Let me
Uh,
check and see if we have any other questions in the live chat here.
I don't see any questions in the live chat. However, I did see this one from Tim earlier, as well. And Tim, being a Liverpool fan, as like I am, he wanted to let you know that being a Spurs supporter, he can forgive you for that part of it.
Thanks, Tim.
And they did update us. So everyone jumped in immediately to say that Mark did score the PK against El Paso. But then Tim also came in and said Mark did convert the winning penalty against Northern Colorado in that first Jägermeister Cup match. But he wasn't the anchor in the starting five. He came in, later in the rotation.
Okay. Okay.
So there we go.
Yeah. Thanks for correcting us.
That is one thing our live chat does very, very well. Is anytime we have a question, it's pretty quick that we get an answer to it.
Yep. I mean, as you can see from the outline that we submitted, we try to come prepared. But sometimes, we rely on our live chat to help us out too.
Yeah, why not? If guys are tuning in, right, give them a platform to ask some questions.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, with that being said, if anybody has anything, we'll give you maybe a couple minutes here to throw a couple last questions, maybe at Coach before we send him out. Um, or I mean, we can stay and chat as long as Coach wants to. But I'm assuming, child at home. I know how that goes. I have two of them. Sometimes when it's bedtime for them, you're like, all I want to do is go to bed.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Looking at the schedule here, the four additional matches to the 25 season. Obviously we have a balanced schedule for every single club, but then there's those four additional matches. You have an away match against Greenville, home against Madison, home against Portland, and then home against Spokane. Um, with the additional four matches going against those, especially against Greenville, Madison, Spokane, all playoff teams, who advance past the first stage of the playoffs. Even what does it mean to you looking at the 25 season and seeing the additional matches added to the schedule?
yeah. It's interesting. I think I got the schedule today for the first time and saw that 12 of our first 15 games are on the road, which was eye opening to me and a little surprising that that was approved. Um, but it's something we can't control, right? So we just got to tackle it and do the best we can with it and try and win every game, which we've done in the past, and we'll aim to do that this year as well. So, no, for me, those four extra games they have to come against somebody. I think they're all strong teams in the league. I'm expecting Portland to be strong as well. I know Bobby Murphy does a good job wherever he goes. He was obviously here in Omaha with Jay before I arrived and done a great job in St. Louis as well. So no, look, we're expecting every game in the league to be competitive, and I think whoever those four extra games are going to be against, they were going to be tough games. So bring it on.
And for as far as the scheduling and such, there were 13 matches that were scheduled on Sunday nights through Thursday nights. Your typical, if you were to be working at a bank, you'd be working the Monday through Friday. So to be attending a match the night before your next work shift. 13 matches throughout the season, 8 at home, 5 on the road. Um, that's some unique scheduling, ones challenges that we have not faced in previous seasons. How does that affect your approach to the season?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like getting a schedule through today and finding out our first game was going to be on a Wednesday night was interesting, right? Like you're expecting it to be on a Saturday. So seeing on a Wednesday is interesting. Obviously, it's going to shape how I go into preseason now and what we're looking for and the games that we need and when we need them. But again, like you don't have any control over when they want to schedule the games. I'm sure they have their reasoning for why they're playing on Thursday nights and Sunday nights. Maybe it's for TV. I don't know. But no, look, it's a new challenge. It's something a little bit different, and I'm sure the league are trying to figure out what works best for the league as well. It's still a young league, and they've got to try these things, as they're perfecting the plan and the schedule for future years.
Yep. And we have somebody in the live chat. Zach wants to know. So this is probably inspired by. I'll tie it into some National Hockey League stuff because whenever a team in the National Hockey League wins, each player of the team gets to spend a day with the trophy. So
Okay.
when you went back to England, did you bring the trophy with you?
No, I had enough. Listen, traveling with a 9-month-old, I had more than enough stuff. I definitely didn't need to bring the trophy as well. No, that was the last thing I needed to bring. As
And
much as I would have loved to, it was too much.
that comment was brought on earlier. I had missed it earlier, but Zach did ask if you would bring home the only cup England is going to see. So throwing a little bit of shade
Okay,
at you.
okay. All right.
Well, coach, we are right up on that hour mark for you. We don't want to take too much of your time. So thank you very much for joining the show and taking all these questions. Congratulations on winning the individual award as well as the team awards. Good luck in the 25 season. Um, and thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, have a great night.
Thanks,
See ya.
Coach.
You too. Bye bye.
All right. Well, that was Union Omaha head coach Dominic Casciato. Man, that was a fun interview.
That was. We've had him on once before, and he has not changed at all. I mean, still more than willing to answer questions and really elaborate on those questions. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes, especially having a young kid at home, I know he was feeling the strain of that a little bit. So, um,
Yep.
just really cool that we got to interview another coach this season after winning the regular season, and this time the regular season and league title. So
Yep.
really cool and love doing it. It's one of my favorite things that we do on the show.
Yeah. Condensing the workload because now we don't have to interview the coach of the year, and then we have to reach out and get the
Right.
USL final winner. So we just condense it all into one.
Yeah, just all at once, one stop shop. Which is fine, and being a Union Omaha fans, I like obviously that makes it even better on that end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Zach coming in saying good interview. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
Appreciated that.
And give all
Well,
the praise to Rich for getting Dom on and doing the heavy lifting.
thank you. Um, so just to chat just a little bit longer as we fill the rest of this episode, we did have the schedule release come out today. Not only do we know the regular season schedule, we also know the Jägermeister schedule. And
Hmm.
in our outline, we have it all filled out here. Who's playing who, all that kind of stuff. We can go into that in far more detail on another episode. But Brian, I mean, let's just throw it out there. What's your initial impressions of the 25 schedule?
Um, I I don't like Union Omaha schedule. I don't like midweek matches. I don't like the majority of our home matches being midweek, or I think I said what I say earlier, school day ones. Um, I don't know. I didn't look at it super close to see if they had the times on there. Obviously, if it's like a 3, 4 o'clock kickoff, that's obviously going to be better than a 7 o'clock kickoff. But I think with some of those matches also coming in the dog days of summer, a 4 o'clock on in August is a little bit different than a 4 o'clock in October. So um, I don't know. It's something we'll have to kind of look at as like Union Omaha fans and see kind of what's going on with that. My initial things is I don't like that part of it. I don't like the beginning of the season being so bare with what 2 matches in the first 4 months, like something like that, something crazy. Um, I don't like it. I think the scheduling could have been done better for Union Omaha. That being said, I do like their opponents in the Jägermeister. I mean Texoma and El Paso at home; those are two good ones, and then New Mexico United and San Antonio on the road. Like obviously, as Coach said, having coached in that league and have been to those places, knowing that they have those facilities and that already knowing that their fan support is there, um, is really a good thing. The only complaint I have about the Jägermeister Cup schedule is we don't get to see the USL One champions play the USL Championship champions. That is the only
Oh,
thing that I could really complain about. I think I said on the last show that would be the only time I would find it acceptable to kind of fudge the draw to make that happen.
yeah. Now that you mentioned that, I remember that we talked about that last time, and I was secretly hoping that that would work out.
Hmm.
The unified series teams have already played. Let's get the USL League One championship teams playing. Oh, that would have been so good.
Could have had a USL
Exa-
Super Cut
see,
and a unified match.
see, that's why I
Man,
love Tim. We're on the same wavelength right
yep.
there.
I think we're all. You know what? I don't even think it's just Tim. Like Tim is the vocal one, but I think all of our listeners and I would say 99.9% of Union and Omaha fans are all on the same page, and I think that's one thing that is really cool about that specific fan base.
Yeah. And so I tried to do a little bit of research into the new schedule to try to find if there was any sort of like a rhyme or reason to some of these quote unquote work night match days.
Mhm.
And you have Union Omaha who shares a stadium and they have double digit match days that fall on those, the sort of night before a work day. You
Yeah,
have other teams
10 out of
who,
17, I think.
so the way that I defined it was like Sunday through Thursday, like the night
Mhm.
before a work day, and I
Oh, okay,
counted it
yeah.
as
Yeah, because I
13.
guess there's a Friday in there as well, yeah,
Yeah.
or a couple Fridays. I
Um,
I looked at it, but full disclosure, I was also outside in the wind and all that
yeah.
stuff all day today, so I'm a little beat up right now, so
I didn't
not
really
fully getting
count
it.
I didn't really count Fridays in it because people are gonna go out Friday nights.
Makes
So if
sense,
they're
yeah.
gonna go to a match, that's not a big deal. So Sunday through Thursday is the parameters that I set it at. And you have teams who share a stadium like Union Omaha, but then also um, Spokane. They have double digit Sunday through Thursday matches. But then you also have um teams like Chattanooga who has their own stadium and they're at 5. Um, but then like Tormenta has 6, One Knox, they yeah, they will share because they're about to go into their new stadium, so they're at 11.
Mhm.
Madison, I think they have like an ultimate frisbee team there, but there may be some other uses for Bree Stevens, but they're at 7.
Yeah, I think Madison probably has the hierarchy of getting to pick what days they want the stadium.
Yeah.
I don't think they're the second in line to pick what days they want. I think they definitely get. So it must be something for the league to want to try to push some of these midweek and quote unquote work week or work day
Yeah.
matches. So
I
maybe
also
coach
tried
was
to
onto something with that, because he
maybe.
brought it up first. So,
Yeah. And that's why I felt that it was okay to ask him that question.
mhm,
I was kind of afraid to at the start, but then like you said, he brought it up, so let's talk about it.
yep.
Um, but then I also tried to do a little bit of to try to find a rhyme or reason with regards to the extra teams that were added to every single team's regular season slate. And some of it seems regionalized, but then it's almost like last season where it was what was the situation where it was Jägermeister Cup where you'll have your set teams in your group, but then you'll also play a team from another group,
Mhm.
which may cause you to travel across the country. There's some situations where a team plays teams within their region. So if I'm looking at Charlotte, for instance, Chattanooga, Greenville, away matches to Texoma and Knoxville, not terribly draining on them.
Not too bad, no.
Um, but then you have teams like Portland. I mean, no matter what you do for them, they're obviously going to do some traveling, but to go all the way to Alta, all the way down to Naples, then you have medium travels for Omaha and One Knox.
Mhm.
There's not really, when you look through some of the teams and their matchups seem to make sense, other teams, not so much.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
so,
that's probably just a product of the league being as small, quote unquote, as it is. I mean, it's really hard to be able to get those. those real close matches, especially when the majority of your teams are in the southeast. I mean,
Yeah.
it just works out that way. Obviously, it's like the adage of playing anybody in baseball that's a warm weather state versus a cold weather state. I mean, it makes sense to have teams down there because their weather is better year round. So, um it makes sense. I think the league is seems like they're working on making it less so. So maybe teams have a little bit more opportunity to be able to play in a more regionalized area, but I think when you just look strictly at population too, I mean, the East Coast as compared to the Midwest or um, even the eastern part of the Western United States, if that makes any sense, are just not going to be huge population bases to be able to have these teams there and financially support, a third division team or even a second division team.
Yeah, and Tim mentions in the live chat that the NFL does or did something similar. And yes, that's true because if you look at the way that the um, NFL is set up, especially if you look at like the NFC East, you have the Commanders, you have the Eagles, you have the Giants, all up there in the Northeast. But then you also have the Cowboys that are all the way down in Texas. That rule doesn't really make sense. Also, if you look at like the AFC East, where you have like Buffalo, and then you have like New York Jets, New England Patriots, all right up there in the Northeast. But then you also have Miami Dolphins down in Florida. So you have those, but then you also have NFC North, where you have Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, all right there, right in the Great
Mhm.
Lakes. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, then Tim coming in saying too, could it be a strength of schedule based on a 2024 results kind of thing? It kind of seems that way with Union Omaha's schedule,
yeah,
which I mean it's a tough schedule. It's going to be one of those things that if Omaha's going to want to go through and repeat, they're going to have to earn it.
yeah.
Which
Especially with closing out the season with home matches against Spokane, Madison, Greenville, in the weeks prior.
mhm.
Oof, that is rough.
Yeah. I mean that is the one nice thing about having a backloaded schedule though, is you get those teams at home. And
Yeah,
generally speaking, Union Omaha performs very well at home. So,
yeah. It is unfortunate that I feel like if you win League One, you should host on opening day. But we have to wait almost 2 months
mhm,
before Union Omaha has a home match
right. Let's see. Union Omaha
because the
is opening up with Greenville though, aren't they? Wednesday night? Yeah.
yeah, they play
Yeah.
away to
March
Greenville.
12th. Yeah. So a Wednesday. So, I mean, I think they're leaning in a little bit to I don't know. Can you even call Omaha and Greenville the most winningest two teams still? I mean,
Yes.
Omaha obviously, and then yeah, I suppose Greenville would be the next one. So
Yeah, because I actually have that up. Oh, I have that spreadsheet up here somewhere. Hold
right.
on. Give me like 20 seconds.
So you
I
would
got it.
think that I knew that going into it, but I didn't. We just work that well together now. I figured he added up, honestly. Anything stat based, I'm like, Rich probably has this. I'll just say it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm pulling up the document now. It's loading and uh points wise, Greenville has 254, Union Omaha has 236
With one less year.
with one less year. Yeah.
Sorry, Greenville had to throw that one in. If anybody from Greenville is listening still,
So, yeah.
it's fair. Tim saying the Greenville match is just an attempt to give them another chance to get the belt back. Hashtag conspiracy.
Mhm.
I'm yeah. That's one thing too. I want to touch on this in a show at some point. We need to come up with, or you know what? Maybe I'll put this out on Twitter. I'll talk to Rich about it afterwards, but I'll put something out on Twitter because I kind of want to see people's opinions on something.
Are you okay? I'm not gonna force you to say what it is, but I'm just gonna ask a very broad yet specific question here. Are you saying that you have League One conspiracy theories?
No, I don't have any League One conspiracy
Oh,
theories.
okay.
It was a thought that came into my head. I might as well just say it here. I've teased it, I guess. I want to see what everybody thinks since we only have a few real good derbies in the league. I want to see what everybody would just throw out there as derbies they would want to see created.
Created, not
One
already established?
not already established ones that you need to, if we had to come out and make a new one. And then CJ coming in saying the volleyball update, the Huskers are up 2-0 over Penn State. Love to see that.
Yeah.
And Union Omaha coming in the live chat saying the universe just wants to make sure we all know that every week is belt week.
Hey, we
Very
get
nice.
3 opportunities in the regular season, and then I think we also oh, no, we don't face them in the Jaeger. That's
Yep.
Texoma.
Yep. Solid.
Yeah.
So I will throw that question out on Twitter at some point because I'm kind of curious to see if you could have a dream derby, what two teams do you want to see in a derby match and what would you call it?
Oh, that gets even better. Okay, so for me oh, man, I'm gonna have to think about this to give a good suggestion. I don't know if anything's gonna, uh, pass the Henny Derby.
I don't I was not trying to even come close to the Henny Derby because I know it is impossible. That is by far
Yeah,
the best derby in this league.
yeah. That's one where I mean, even last season when I had a bye week opportunity, yeah, I'm gonna fly to Madison and I'm gonna go watch the Henny Derby.
Oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm gonna have to think on that because I think
Hmm.
there's some cool options available. But then to come back and say what you would name it makes it even better.
Yeah, you have
That's
to
a good
you
question.
have to name it. You have to name it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wasn't throwing you out on the spot. It just popped into my head and I thought I had to get it out otherwise I was going to forget. Tim asking if we're letting every team into the playoffs this year or if we're still letting every team into the playoffs. No, I think it's still 8. So, I mean, the majority of teams, yes, can get into the
Yep.
playoffs. A slight majority, but a majority nonetheless.
Yeah, it's like hockey.
It happens. We got to start giving hockey assists now.
Ooh, yeah. I would love to track that. I don't know if there's I don't know if that's even tracked so far in the league. I'd have to look into that. That'd be cool though.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Just
that's
another
such an
another stat.
undervalued stat.
It is. I think you see more impressive build up to the guy that makes the assist than the actual assist itself.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it definitely takes a lot of talent because a lot of the goals you see in this league are sprung based off of the first or second guy that touches the ball. It's not the final guy most of the time.
Yep. What's we just have a few minutes left in the episode here, but what are some of your thoughts on the initial signings that we've seen around the league?
Um, I mean they look good. I mean we touched on it a little bit last week.
Yeah.
Eh, there's just there's so much to keep up with at this point where I need to get over and read Alex's coverage of everything again and just kind of go over and really deep dive into it. I've been saving a a deep dive for a weekend where I didn't have the kids or anything like that. So maybe it's this weekend I do that and kind of get back into the deep diving mode and going through and reading everybody's stuff every week again. Um, but I mean,
Yeah, because
there's some surprising things that have happened so far.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I think the biggest ones are coming out of Greenville, and it's the guys that they didn't return or pick up. I think that's been the biggest, not controversy, but the biggest talking point of this very young off season too. Is whoa, they like these are the guys that are going to be out there right now. That some other team can pick those guys up, and it would be giant pickups.
Yeah, I think the most recent one that pops into mind for me, I think I just saw it earlier today, was Richmond. Because Nicholas Simmons is going to be a student over at UVA, University of Virginia, and he's going to be playing for their soccer team in the fall. So he's not going to be a part of their League One team in the 25 season. Um, so obviously, we want him to have success in the at the
Mhm.
collegiate level, but that's certainly another name that's not going to be included in the Richmond roster.
Yeah,
Sad enough to say.
yeah. But I mean, looking at it now, especially with the final that just happened um, for collegiate soccer, it has gotten significantly more talented over
Yeah,
the years, and there's a lot of players that are coming from outside of the U.S. to come and play on collegiate teams, and you see a lot more of those guys now. So I think that it just kind of speaks to the level of the level of coaching and the level of development that colleges have now and the kind of money and time and effort that they're putting into soccer. I mean, we've kind of all seen it over the past like I don't know 8 to 10 years. It's been getting bigger and bigger, but I think once it hits collegiate sports, generally that's where it really starts to pick up steam, just because it's so widely viewed by, especially like people that are more casual fans will go to their college soccer matches more than they would go to a random MLS game that's on TV and watch it or something like that. So
yeah.
when the quality of play picks up in collegiate levels, I think you see a rise in casual fans in college towns with good collegiate teams.
Union Omaha coming in here saying, Tim, uh, their stat collection this season, their chances created metric looks roughly analogous to FOTMob's key passes. Okay, so we at least, we all use FOTMob enough that we're familiar with their resources in there and all that kind of stuff. So that's nice.
Hmm.
And I like the fact that we have Bellevue University as a partner for League One.
Hmm.
I like the fact that we can have players that are studying, getting degrees and all that kind of stuff. I hope that partnership continues to grow so that more players on each team are able to access the resources available at Bellevue University, because, to my understanding, it's limited. And if we can get more players getting degrees while they're also professional athletes, it'd be a lot easier to sway them into being League One athletes rather than collegiate
Hmm.
athletes.
Yeah.
'Cause I can
And
guarantee you the NIL is not as they don't have as deep as of pockets as we're all thinking they do.
hmm
That money's going to football and volleyball and baseball and all that kinda stuff. It's
yeah,
not gonna go to soccer.
right. Yeah, and just on the Bellevue University front, if you're a Union Omaha fan and you're a season ticket holder and you want to go back to school, make sure when you talk to their people to get you into Bellevue University, you mention that you have season tickets.
Yeah, I ran into her at a hockey game, and I was chatting with her, but we didn't get on that topic. We were just talking about other stuff.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
should have brought that up.
yeah, there is scholarship opportunities available for being a season ticket holder if you're going back to school at Bellevue University. For
Yeah,
Union Omaha, anyway. I couldn't speak to the other teams because I'm not a season ticket holder for any other team. But
yeah. All right. We're sitting at 92 minutes. So if anybody wants to jump in here, throw in a last second questions, comments, we can certainly accommodate that. I'm not seeing anything on social media at the moment. Union Omaha also coming in here saying no problem. Looks more like discrepancy between those two and key passes, though. I think there's also a couple of other resources available to look at. Which what? There's a couple of other resources to look at, like the passing matrix and the passes leading up to goals, but it's going to take a little bit more work to make that happen.
Mhm.
So the hockey the second assist is certainly something that can be tracked. It's just going to take some work.
And there's the drink for saying NIL.
There it is. Yep. Had to abide. All right. Well, looks like we don't have any more questions rolling in here, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of League One on the Rocks. We were very happy to have the 2023 and 2024 USL League One Coach of the Year, Coach Dominic Casciato, on the show. Tune in for another episode here in the coming weeks. We're going to take a little bit of a break here as we get into the holiday season, but we will be back in no time because man, this off season it feels like a long time, but it also feels like a super short time at the same time. We'll be back with more episodes, um, and more discussions, more interviews, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for more episodes.
Thanks, guys.